the reality that they don't really want to talk about, in my opinion, is they threw massive amounts of money at this. And I'm talking OpenAI, Microsoft, they threw humans at this.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Coles Ventures Podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for hopping on and grateful that you're taking some time to come in and talk and all that. But if you just want to kind of go through general, who you are, what you do, what you're building, all the kind of cool stuff you've worked on and are working on, that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah. So, Brandon Tanner, CEO of Omniscia AI. I've been doing that since basically January, but the founder, Fred Brown, and I go back, 25 plus years.
Nice.
So it's kind of, been in the tech scene in Spokane for a long time.
That's awesome. That's cool. How did you meet him?
So Fred, it actually came through Bill Kalivas and Louis Rumpler and Phil Sandifer were doing Springboard. And we were actually first into Launchpad, and they introduced me to Fred, and this would have been 2003 or 4. That's what we sold. We actually ended up selling to Fred. Yeah. Long time ago, back in the .com era.
That's awesome. That's
It dates me quite a bit. But.
Hey, that's all right. I mean, that's some patina on the career. That's good. I think it's funny. I mean, when I look at people like my generation, their LinkedIn profiles is pretty sparse. There's like 2 jobs on this. It's always good to talk with people that have much more knowledge than we do.
Yeah, so we started when the internet started.
That's awesome. What was that like? I mean, that was just such a crazy time, I imagine. And
so we, and I'm never really a founder per se. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. But I tend to work early with founders that have the original idea, if you will. And so Sam Fleming and I both went to Whitworth University and played baseball together. Okay. And so he actually had this crazy idea in 1996 that people were going to start putting credit cards online and buying things. And
back then, probably a crazy idea. Like, no one would ever do that. Yeah, the security risk and everything. It's good. Now people don't even think about it.
They're like, have credit cards.
Take everything, all my information.
Yeah, so that was the days when we started. And it turned out that, in the early days like that, it was a bit early even for that. So we ended up doing the very first websites in town.
Isn't that a funny thing, though? It's like you can have the correct, the best idea, but just either too early or too late.
It might not be the right place too, because
that too.
Spokane was a little bit at the time, it's gotten a lot more progressive. Yeah. But if you're in the Bay Area with that idea, you'd have people throwing money left and right at it, right? Yeah. And maybe Seattle too at that time. Yeah. Spokane, it was like, you're talking to our very first customer, and it was awesome. Dwayne Alton actually spoke at our social and ethical issues in business. Okay. So Alton's Tire got acquired by Tire-Rama, but they were back in that day. They had Alton's Tire all over the place, and Matt Alton, his son, we got to meet them. They were our very first customer ever, and so we're still in college, right? Yeah. We got Dr. Hergenrather and Bill Robinson allowed us to do this for marketing credit while we were still in school. To get we got business degrees and with a marketing minor. Sure. So, anyways, we talked Dwayne into letting us do a website. Well, the only reference they had was print media. Yeah. So basically they were trying to get us just to do print media on the internet. Online. Well, the modems back there were brutal. You couldn't do big images and all that stuff. Right. So we had to kind of change that whole paradigm and mindset. But we did the majority of all the first websites in town. Wow. We did the Chamber of Commerce back then. Wow. All types of websites. That's awesome. Because we're the only guys that really knew how to do it at the time.
I mean, what a great skill set to have at that time when everyone's coming out and like, I need a website. And it's like, well, you gotta come to me.
How do you do that?
Right? I know. Now it's crazy. I mean, you could take 2 seconds. I mean, I used, have you ever used Lovable before?
Yes. I know of it, but I haven't used it too much.
I used it for the first time, I think 2 weeks ago. And it was insane. I just made a personal website about myself and kind of a pitch of who you are. It took me, I think, 5 minutes, and it made an entire website of just I went on ChatGPT and I said, give me a prompt to put into Lovable to make, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And it did it. Within, I think, 5 minutes, I had a pretty decent, I've created it on Wix, on Square, on, now Lovable. And that was by far the easiest. It wasn't even close. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we built that company, and when honestly within, right away we were pretty profitable, just because we're college kids too. Right. Like, cause you don't have a bunch of big expenses.
Yeah.
And,
what was your pricing model like at that time?
I mean, yeah. So initially you're going to laugh. So we ended up becoming a software company, and there's a reason for it, right? Like every startup has their story of where they get to. So we charged Matt and Dwayne Alton $500 for the first website we ever did for them.
Gosh.
We went to Tomato Street to the happy hour, because they give you, free types of pizzas, like tester pizzas, and then there's like $5 pitchers.
There you go.
So we thought we had just hit the biggest home run on the planet.
Well,
right?
I mean, you're in college, you're not paying for anything, like, especially back then, $500, like, it's a lot of money.
You're getting it from a business, and you got a customer that you can reference.
I mean, who can say that in college?
Yeah,
not many people.
Exactly, and we're doing it as an internship.
Yeah.
So it was like a big deal, right? And so, so anyways, we ended up turning into a software company.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do e-commerce, but it was too early.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is people were calling us every week, if not twice a week, not 3 times a week, because they're used to print. Every week you'd put a new print into the newspaper. So they wanted us to mimic that online.
Oh my gosh, just
so
changing
it was
the
a
website.
nightmare, constantly changing the website. So our lead developer came up to us, because he was the one having to do it. And he basically goes, look, why don't we build a content management system so they can update their own stuff?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, okay. Well, why don't we do that?
Yeah. It's a great idea.
And so it was kind of like a mini version of Word digitally we could expose to our customers.
Okay.
The other thing we created it was called In Contact, and that was in control of the content management.
Yeah.
But we did the first digital newsletters in town as well. Okay. And the Chamber of Commerce at the time bought off on it. And so every business saw this, HTML newsletter that went out that was the first of its kind, that had clickable and all that kind of stuff.
God, that was a crazy time.
Yeah, so you say that, it's like, it sounds like that's so archaic, but at the time, no one was doing it.
Yeah.
Like it, became the companies that really became successful was like Red Dot, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we didn't know we had, and then Fred ends up meeting us, and Fred's in the AI. I mean, he's been doing human emulation and digital human emulation for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of the godfather of it in many respects.
Yeah.
So our content management system he looked at that and said, that's great repository for the content for the AI bots.
Yeah. What a crazy, I mean, I don't even remember hearing whispers of AI until I don't even know, maybe 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
That's insane. And there's people like him working on it for, decades.
You can Google, Ask Jen and, Sergeant Starve, Go Army. And those are, I think that's like 06, 08. You'd have to,
that's crazy.
Date check me. But, and so, I was part of that after they acquired us. Those first ones, the biggest difference then is the Gen AI stuff today, the large language models and those that are now, I call them commoditized, they just are. It wasn't back then. You had to build them.
Right.
And you had to build them per, vertical per company.
Yeah.
So, and then you'd have to train it. And I mean, it's just expensive.
For sure. I mean, you kind of answered that a little bit, but I mean, what do you think was the major difference? I guess, why do you think that AI has taken off in the last, we'll say 5 years versus, people have been working on this since early 2000s. What kind of was the tipping point? I mean, I know that obviously the tech's better, the chip's better, there's a lot more money people can toss at it, but what do you think has really been the launch pad, if you will?
Yeah, the reality that they don't really want to talk about, in my opinion, is they threw massive amounts of money at this. And I'm talking OpenAI, Microsoft, they threw humans at this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it took. It took armies and billions of dollars to get the large language models to where they are even functional.
Yeah.
They're pretty good right now. Really they're really good for certain things.
For certain things, yeah. Have you ever tried to use it for math?
Yeah.
Or numbers?
Yeah.
There's certain ones I think.
Some are better than others.
For sure. If you ever try to do, you plug an equation into ChatGPT, terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. But there's certain ones that are I don't know, I'm sure there are, there's math specific ones that could knock it out of the park. And so it just kind of depends on, obviously ChatGPT is more of a word processor, a glorified, text predictor.
It's great for, writing a LinkedIn post or a marketing thing or, the basis of it. And it does other things that are pretty good. It's at scale.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about really important stuff that you need to be accurate and right on, including math or a type of math, if we're dealing with credit rates and we're dealing with financial type transaction or recommendations, The generative stuff is good at generating the language and the verbiage once you've told it what to do and what you want.
Right.
If you're trying to use it to, ad lib or riff, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the fundamental industry problems we're seeing at scale. So that MIT just came out with a study. I don't know if you saw that, but basically, and it just came out a few weeks ago. Like, it's a recent study.
Yeah.
95% of the Gen AI pilots that are going on in companies today have failed.
Wow.
That they're doing themselves, like in-house. And that's what we're seeing as a business. And that's, it's actually helping us because we're seeing people come to us to go, we tried this and it was working great. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And we don't know where it broke and we don't know how to fix it.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, can you even go back and fix it? I mean, you've fed it so much information. I mean, how can you even go back and sift through all the muck?
Yeah, so in our world, we can. And that's because we're not dependent on the Gen AI or the large language models completely. So we use it as a component of our solution, but it's just a component.
Okay.
So the other side of it is we'll use knowledge bases that are human approved content that you say that's what we want to do, or sources that you want it to go to. Because if ChatGPT or those don't understand something, they'll make it up.
Right.
You got to tell them don't do that.
Yeah.
So we also have a rules engine that sits on top of all this with an orchestration engine that says, okay, when someone gives me asks me a question or I'm supposed to do something, what are the rules? Number one, right? And then number two, if I go, those are the rules, the next thing I might need to do is ask some questions back to get context. Yeah. Once I've got context, I can go to my, conversational engine, a dialogue engine as we call it, and I can see which dialogue is that appropriate for. That's why we ask the questions. Which track are we going down?
Exactly.
If someone says, "Hey, I want to buy a car," we'll come back and go, new or used. Mm-hmm. Do you know what type of car? Do you have one picked out? All that context will help us with the engine.
Yeah.
Now, the only time we're going to use the generative is when we want to say, this is the type of response we want to generate. Mm-hmm. If we don't have it already there, and then we can use the generative.
Yeah.
The other side of it that's probably more important than that, and this goes to your fundamental question, is how do you fix it and find it? So we have a test harness. So that testing harness is separate from all the Gen AI and all that stuff. And so you can run a battery of scripts, questions, tests, you name it, that are important to your organization. And if they don't get the right answer or the answer's not in there, it shows up on this and you can adjust it. And so, and more importantly, we are actually using some AI to look at the responses to make sure, like if a version's changed to 4.3 and all of a sudden an answer is now changed, we're going to know that. Yeah. If it's with enough deviation, we'll expose that to the user and go, is this okay or do we need to adjust? So we can find the problems really fast. So it's a fundamental thing companies aren't thinking about and aren't building. So that's one of our distinct, advantages over, any of the, call it the generative large language models and even the companies themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Before we get too far in the weeds of kind of what you guys do and how you do it, can you just give a brief overview of what Omniscia is, what you guys are building, all that?
Yeah. Yeah. So Omniscia AI is digital human emulation and augmentation. And augmentation is important because, we can digitally emulate a human with any type of task, not physical tasks, but digital tasks that someone could do. Any expert in your organization that does it digitally, either customer facing or support facing, we can emulate that. But there comes a point in time where you may not want it to go all the way through there because you may need a human to come in the loop. Yeah. We just make the human a lot more efficient. So what may take them, call it, the question answer thing to get to what you need to get to, as an example. That may take 20, 30 minutes to talk to somebody, whether it's a salesperson or a support person. They have to get context before they know what to do. Mm-hmm. We can do that in a very effective manner, and we may already have the knowledge too, if it's in the system. So we can make some of those, they're not assumptions, they're known facts. Yeah. And then we also know when to give it to the human in the loop. Like, this is the buying cycle or buying signals, or this actually needs a human. Yeah. But 85 to 90% of what they might have done typically has already been done.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you give, we've kind of talked about the buying a car example. Could you give another example of maybe what you guys are working on now that would be a great example of what kind of what a use case would be?
Yeah. So, buying a car, doing debt consolidation, understanding HELOC education, educating the person coming in. Another really good example of this is in healthcare. So if you think about it, healthcare is one of those things where, especially in larger organizations, I'm not really talking like hospitals and things like that. I'm talking more of like service providers to hospitals. It's a little bit different kind of field. But if you think about where there's a lot of disparate data, disparate systems, and it's hard for an end user even to make sense of it, right? So a lot of their job is just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
That's a really good use case because we can consume the data and make sense out of it, and then we can actually have the end user validate it for us. Meaning because we've got conflicting data, right? So system A says this, system B says this, system C says this about this particular patient or person, right? Well, with AI and the way a platform like ours can consume that, we can go, there's conflicting information here. Let's ask the user to help us understand which is the right answer in the right data. Now you've got a set of data that's accurate from that user all the way through the process.
Yeah.
So you're cleaning up what they typically have to do every single time when a doctor talks to you or a nurse talks to you or whomever we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So that's one of the more nuanced things that we're seeing, right now that's coming down the pipe in the market.
Yeah.
The credit union concept and the digital banking concept is pretty easy to grasp, though, this is a big step from where they are today.
Yeah.
Right.
So, industry-wise, you're targeting banking, healthcare,
and then sports and entertainment.
Okay. Those are kind of the three big ones that you guys are looking at.
So there'll be sports entertainment is interesting because if you can help do human emulation and augmentation in that world and be very precise and accurate, it's a big deal. Because you're talking real scale for like individuals or teams. So we actually it'll be coming out fairly soon, but we've got a famous person that's from Colombia that's a TV analyst and was on a national team for Colombia, U.S. Olympics, World Cup, like super stellar person that we've emulated, that including to like The Voice and stories and all those types of things is going to actually go public. So our concept there is if a famous person trusts us to emulate them and puts it out in the public, that's a big deal.
Definitely. What's the use case for that? What types of things are you guys or the organization looking at doing with that emulation? Yeah.
So if you think about those people like that, they're sponsored, right? Yeah. Today they got sponsors and they've got different other mechanisms for revenue. So imagine if you can pick whatever you want to pick. It could be mentorship to young players in worldwide. And to do that, you could also be recommending either techniques or things to subscribe to, or if you've got favorite products or things that you like and they want to recommend, there's revenue streams for those types of things. So we haven't figured out the complete monetization strategy there, but if someone's available 365, 24/7, and it's good representation of them in any language, in their voice, it's a pretty interesting concept.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do you guys see, differentiation in kind of the AI realm is tough, as everybody kind of knows. Are you guys worried at all that someone else is working on this? kind of how do you guys differentiate from in-house, AI bots that people can, they're not great. I'm sure yours is better, but if you're a business and you're looking at, okay, this one might be better, but ours is like fine, and we haven't had that many issues with it. How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so it's actually fundamentally changed kind of I wouldn't say go-to-market strategy, but kind of the model. Mm-hmm. And so the model we had to switch to is we're consulting up front, depending on the size of the organization. So it's a consulting piece to go, what have you done with AI and what do you know about it?
Yeah.
And we got to get a level set and we got to understand their business. The second part is, phase 2 is building a specific prototype based on their needs to show and prove how it works. The third phase is then, okay, what is it that you need to go into production based on user feedback? The reason I say all that for the model is because there is so much noise out there and there are so many toes getting stubbed that people are just stopped trusting. So it gets real stagnant, and then the people trying to do it themselves, they're running into the same problems, and so there's this wash, I call it, and it's just like the .com era that became the .bomb.
Yeah.
Right. A Perfect Web was profitable through the whole thing and rose through it and came through it. No different than in the cloud space, with IT Lifeline, Second Watch, and those types of things, where if you've got a real thing that really works, you'll make it.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other stuff's gonna start falling by the wayside, right?
Yeah.
Like, there'll be a bubble.
Definitely.
There always
I don't
is.
think anyone doubts that.
No.
So just win.
Yeah, you just got to embrace it,
Yeah.
right? Like you just got to know it's coming and just brace for it.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the company now, kind of, where have you guys been? Where are you at now? And where do you think you'll be? What's kind of the goal, 3 to 5 years? Where do you guys want to be?
Yeah. So, right now, our goal is to and we're going partner first strategy, with people that already have existing relationships with customers, and that honestly, both their customer base and even them themselves would struggle implementing AI or doing AI the way that we're talking about doing it. So what the vision is to have a fintech channel that's scaling nicely, and that takes, the fintech stuff takes 3 to 5 years. There's no way around it. There'll be a tipping point, but your first year in it's going to be slow until you got proof points, you got enough customers, but then it'll start to go in years 2 and 3, and so that'll scale real nicely. The healthcare side of it, with the right partner, that could scale. You could scale that in 12, 24 months and have a pretty sizable deal there. Again, for us, the technology underlying is the same stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just different training and different content. And that's what's hard for people to wrap their arms around when you're talking about a startup that's doing multiple verticals. Mm-hmm. I get it. I mean, and then sports entertainment, that's the one that I don't know exactly how that's going to go.
Yeah.
It's one that could actually go viral.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, and the monetary strategies there, we'll see how those work. But again, that just has a lot more, flair and, the feature rich for having someone's actual, it's not that it's emulating their real voice. Like, that's pretty crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool. And we had to go through a lot of hoops to do that. It's not like you can just go and do that. Yeah. Like, they had to sign off on it, the individual and Google AI, and you have to know people. Like, they take it very serious.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I could imagine a lot of security risk with that.
You could imagine. I mean, and so there's other examples of these right now. Like, I don't know if you saw some recent news on it, but they were doing some studies and tests, and ChatGPT was helping young girls figure out how to hide eating disorders. Yeah. And also how to write a perfect suicide note. Like, you imagine if that came from one of ours? Yeah. You can't do that. No. Like, that's a death knell, right? Yeah. Like, that's just, and that's the problem, right? Like, those are some fundamental problems, especially if you're talking customer facing or those types of things. People doing stuff internal with their own operations, you don't hear about it as much because it's not public. Yeah. So that's where you're seeing a lot of this, whether it's Gartner or Forrester are talking about on the business side, the CMOs, CSOs struggling with how to figure out how to make money with it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let's rewind a little bit. I mean, we never really talked about your background, kind of how you got from, you said business and economics.
Business and marketing.
Business and marketing.
Yep.
How'd you go from business and marketing to now, and I kind of looked and stalked your background, basically only working in startups in a more tech kind of heavy role. Yeah. How did that transition go?
Yeah, so, it probably goes all the way back to my parents, right? So my dad started an oil and gas company back in the 80s. Okay. And then, he was a mortgage broker and real estate in the 90s. Like, entrepreneurial, right? Yeah. My mom had a plant business and other businesses and things along those lines. And so the tech piece really was just more of nobody knew it, mm-hmm. right? And we're young enough to play around with it. And, right. We didn't need a lot of money back then, so I think you can get away with it. And then it's just led from one to the next. And so each major trend, the .com era was a part of that. We were successful, got acquired by, Next IT. And then, went to Spray Cool after that, which were doing liquid cooling on electronics, which was amazing, right? Like, that's crazy to think you're putting dielectrics on electronics to cool them off, right? And so they were doing a bunch in the DoD space, and then that led to, finding a commercial application for it. So we were working in data centers. And so that company got sold to Parker Hannifin, went to IT Lifeline, and they did it before 9/11, but post 9/11, think about disaster recovery. Yeah. So a lot of the financial institutions and institutions in general in the Twin Towers, their backup strategy and DR strategy was, okay, my backups, my primaries in this building, my secondaries in this building.
Yeah.
Well, that fundamentally changed the industry, right? So IT Lifeline, post that, it made sense for, proximity and all kinds of disaster recovery type deals. So that became a big market. That got acquired by Rensis. It was actually Reynolds and Reynolds at that time. So that was, again, another big market trend. And then you look at, we also help, so Chris Bleezer, who's the CEO at Vega, currently and founder, he also founded Second Watch. And Second Watch was in our building at the time.
Okay.
Because we were doing DR, and DR was kind of one of the first things that you could pause, people were playing around with at AWS.
Yeah.
So they helped us move the first, bank data ever into the public cloud. So the public cloud trend was that big next, wave.
Yeah.
And we were part of it. So we created a product called Black Cloud, product name. So we were the anti-public cloud in the public cloud. Okay. But then, community banks, credit unions, financial, and healthcare could use it.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a and so that worked. And then, you fast forward. I did the corporate thing for a while, and that was kind of fun because it's probably the first time I ever did corporate for a minute. Yeah. And all these high stress, startups where, they're crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then I saw what Chris was doing again with Vega, and connected with him, and then that was probably 4 years ago, I think, give or take, and it was doing a few $1,000s a month, several thousands a year, and it's doing millions now.
Yeah.
A year, which is cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
But I've just always been part of the trends, and then AI is coming back around full circle in a big way. And Fred and I have been tied together for 20 some odd years. Whether him acquiring Perfect Web, or him having wind fund partners that put money into IT Lifeline. He's been on boards where I've been in play, and just known him forever. He's actually one of my original mentors.
Okay.
In tech.
Yeah.
Like when I met Fred, we're in our 20s, and he's already sold a company, Linesoft to Itron, for millions. And, I thought I knew something, and I met him, and I'm like, oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I gotta learn fast.
Yeah.
So he was one of the original mentors in tech for me. And then Matt Gerber was a consistent one. He was an exec at Itronics, and then he ended up becoming the CEO at Spraycool when I was there. So I knew him there, and then he became the CEO at IT Lifeline eventually.
Okay.
And so I knew him there, and then he was an exec at Second Watch. So kind of a lot of us. Yeah. All, especially ones that we've had failures, but a lot of successes too.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. That kind of segues greatly into my next kind of portion of this is, about Spokane, and obviously you went to school here and a lot of your jobs have been here. I guess what role has mentorship played in your career, and kind of what has Spokane brought to your career that maybe it wouldn't have had you been building in Seattle or LA or any of those bigger, larger markets? Yeah, so it's been quintessential. Like there's no two ways around it. And I'd go all the way back to the very beginnings. And it was Kohl's, like originally. So my wife is from Houston. Okay. I'm from Denver, so we're not natives. Yeah. But they brought her up to launch Spokane.net. So this goes back again to the Perfect Web days. And I didn't know her until we met. But she worked for Stacy and Sean Higgins. Sean Higgins recently passed away. Great guy. Yeah. But they would actually, they would either make investments, or in our case, they would do contracts for us, because it was a little bit, we were pretty young, a little green around the gills, right? So it was kind of safer probably to do contract work with us, but it was good work, and it got us customers and those kind of things. And then over the years, Kohl's and other investors have put money in pretty much anything, in Wind Fund with Fred and things like that. But it wasn't just the money, it was helping us. Yeah. Like, they'd listen to us, what we were talking about, and say, well, have you thought about this? What about applies here? It's a lot like, you and Sky do it today seamlessly, where you hear what we're talking about, you're like, oh, we need to connect you with XYZ, or, have you thought about this? Because you guys are seeing different deals, you're seeing different companies, you're seeing things that are working. Yeah. And entrepreneurs and founders can be really stubborn. Well, it's kind of that, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? And especially being a founder in a company, it's like you're in it day in, day out. And so it's tough a lot of times. And it's just like, you might not know what's going on over here, because all of your time is focused here.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice, right? It's like, you're not going to know. So no, it totally makes sense.
But no, it's been, and those folks over the years, I mean, it just, because things change so much.
Yeah.
Like if I was telling you that we were doing websites again and doing content management, you'd be like, what are you talking about? You just talked about doing the websites, yourself. Like it's gone. It's over. So, finding people in those particular things and then just having the relationships that you can lean on when you need some help, right? Like, hey, I'm struggling. Do you know anybody that does X, Y, Z? Or, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a large part of Launchpad and Springboard, which I just learned you were the first.
We were the first three. I don't know if we were first. I could say first if I wanted to, but I think we were the first three to go through it. The first three that were allowed to go through it. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you can count, I had Bill on, I think 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it was last week. And I mean, he kind of talked about, what they do for Launchpad and kind of how the Springboard program was evolving. But I mean, from your perspective, kind of the customer side perspective, what did that program bring for you guys? What did you learn? What did you gain from it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had no idea on fundraising. We had no idea of like a real business plan. We had no idea of kind of like even business structure stuff. We were just cutting contracts, making money, and had some developers, and it was working. So we just didn't have a lot of that business acumen nor startup acumen, I would say.
Yeah.
And so as we went through that process with them, and Phil Sandifer was a mentor of ours that at the time was really heavy into a lot of the startup scene and seen a lot of it, and was super helpful, on giving us advice. And I mean, even from the fact of, so we were so busy doing the changes I was talking about, I was doing a lot of them. Yeah. Like, I'm not technical, but it was like we had so much demand that I was doing it. And he's like, why wouldn't you hire someone at what's your rates? Like it just, so it was things like that to go, how much more could you sell if you were selling?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when you're in startup, you're salespeople.
Yeah.
Like everybody's selling and everybody's doing work. Mm-hmm. Like there's no job title. Like CEO doesn't mean much in a startup. Yeah. Like it's like, okay.
You're still doing everything. You're doing all else. The work. Yeah. Everyone's got the same job.
Yeah. There is differences, but you know what I mean? But it's like the biggest thing I think early stage is you got to be able to sell but understand what the capabilities are. Yeah. Like if you can sell over your skis, and if you can't deliver, it's a big problem.
Right.
You can get a little over them. Yeah. But you better be able to deliver, to a point that works.
Once that starts snowballing, it's hard to come back from.
Yeah. Yeah. So and they helped with those kind of things too. Like those are those, a lot of learning moments. And then I think probably more important to me has been the connections. I had this fundamental belief when I was younger, if I could just talk to somebody, an executive, that I could convince them. Like I just believed it. Naive enough, but I just believed if I could talk to Stacy Coles, he'll put some money in this or do something with us. Yeah. Well, they did stuff with us, right? Yeah. Like they said, I got some young whippersnappers here, throw them some bones. Yeah. Like, they're just great people for the community, right? Sure. Like just huge. And so it was those kind of things that really helped us out. And then even, Dwayne Alton and Matt Alton doing the first website and throwing some money at us. That's not even much. I mean, to them, it was nothing, but it's a thing. Yeah. It's time. Right.
Well, it's it's credibility.
It's hard to get people's time. Yeah. Yeah. Like and now we can say, we've got projects with the Coles, we've got projects with Alton's Tires, who was a big name brand at the time. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce. That's how you build these small companies that turn into real companies. Right. Like, in Spokane, I think's a really good place for that. Like everybody, the ecosystem works together. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's spats and there's things, if you've been here long enough, there's going to be people that there's people that probably don't like me, right? It is what it is because you're there for so long. But in general, the ecosystem's fantastic. Yeah.
I think of all the people I've had on so far, I think that's been the most common theme because I always bring up about Spokane. I'm like, why are you building Spokane versus you could go over to Seattle and probably have a better chance at, raising money or running into people, more connections just because of the sheer mass density of population there. But I mean, I think what everyone hits on is just the sense of community here is like once you're in it and if you put yourself into it, it's very forgiving and loving and everyone wants to help everybody. And
we're not trying to compete with each other on the same stuff. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Even if someone's, there's, I was talking with Dylan Avatar, right? And, we talk about it, like we'll help them with AI stuff.
Yeah.
Like when they get to that point, I know they're already doing some stuff, but we'll happily help them.
Yeah.
Whether it's our stuff or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I guess beyond that aspect, why do you think that your career has gone so well being based out of maybe a tier 2, tier 3 city versus Seattle, Bay Area, all of those?
Yeah. I think a big part of that is because, we've had success. Nothing's ever perfect. Like there's no easy way to do it. Like it's never perfect, but we've had success.
Yeah.
And we've had success outside the area too. That didn't happen immediately, but when you think about like a Fred Brown, right? Like he's capable, and Jeff Brown, former Gonzaga player, was the sales guy. They get Alaska Airlines and go Army.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it is if you're able to land business outside of just Spokane and you're not just wholly dependent on it.
Yeah.
That's where I think the success comes from.
That's when it works.
Yeah, because even IT Lifeline, a big part of that was, and that's where I get mentorship from a guy like Matt Gerber, who was able to put a deal together with a large, fintech company, Jack Henry back in the day.
Yeah.
And I learned about how important a partner is, right? That's already got scale. Now they're not easy to land, and you got to have something. So you can grow stuff here and build it, but you got to be able to figure out how do you get it at scale and outside of just this market.
Yeah.
And I think that mentality is more probably a Seattle mentality, a San Francisco mentality. They're not thinking about selling it. They might build it there and sell it to a few people. And we do that, right? But then we're already looking at partners that aren't even based here.
Yeah.
Right. And they've got a bunch of customers and, we're working with one of our board guys, Jose Quintana. He's in College Station, Texas, and he's doesn't work for Texas A&M, but does a ton with Texas A&M tech transfer and all types of other stuff. One of the most interesting humans on the planet and one of the best guys on the planet. So he's on our board and he's helping us get into certain places that we'd never be able to get into.
Yeah.
But that's over time and trust.
Yeah.
Right. And proving ourselves and, that's, you got to do that.
For sure. Now, when you're looking at the talent pool in Spokane, is there a difference? I mean, you guys are kind of growing. I don't know if you're hiring inside or outside of Spokane, but when you're looking at that, I think talk about that a little bit. Is there more here that people can hire out of than looking into kind of those larger metros?
Yeah, I would especially say for startups, the thing that we see is you got to have your core team, which we do, and they know this stuff inside and out. And there's only a handful of people on the planet that will know it that well, especially your particular thing.
Right.
Right. Like, and so what you really want to be able to do, and this is why the good part about the answer is we've got really good universities here.
Yeah.
And you're actually better off growing them a lot of times than you are hiring them and overpaying for them.
Right. So
everybody's resume on the planet right now that's in tech is going to say they know AI.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. That means they played with ChatGPT for the most part. That doesn't help us.
Right.
Right? Because now if you bring in someone at a high level that really doesn't understand some of these things, you got a problem because they're learning on the job.
Right.
So you're better off hiring, taking an intern or building one of those things. That's what we did at Perfect Web back in the day of the websites. Yeah. No one knew how to build those things.
Yeah.
We were the ones teaching them.
Yeah.
And, our platform, we're building stuff. There's stuff that's coming because it needs to be there that we're learning that has to be there. It's not like you can go, here's this easy finished product, go. It's not how startups work.
Yeah.
Like it's, it takes you a minute.
Yeah.
It just does. And that's a long-winded way of saying it, but I think our real talent is coming from the universities, having all these different universities and growing the talent.
Definitely.
That's just, I think, a better model for startups as they grow.
Yeah.
Because, you can overpay really easy and then be in a tough, problem revenue-wise because you may not be getting the return for what you're paying. And now you're kind of stuck.
Definitely.
So I've seen both sides of it. But Fred and I are probably both more of the you got to grow people as you go because what this company looks like today. I mean, we'll be having this podcast in a year from now.
Yeah.
Completely different story.
Very different.
Yeah, we'll be you're dealing with HR now. You're dealing with all kinds of other stuff, right?
Yeah. When you're, I mean, from the hiring perspective, how do you think about keeping people and continuing to keep people in Spokane versus, because I mean, I don't know what the stats are. I'm sure someone knows it, but I feel like the majority of college students, especially Gonzaga or Whitworth or, Eastern, maybe not so much Eastern, but they'll come in for college and then they go right
somewhere
back
else.
to where they came
from.
from.
And then they come back sometimes.
And then sometimes, 5-10 years later, you circle back around. How do you think businesses can do a better job about, preemptively reaching out to the colleges probably and keeping students here post-grad?
I think it's all culture.
Yeah.
Like the companies that I've been a part of that have been, very successful, it had a good culture. The ones that were tough, culture was tough, right? And so I think the key is attracting, talent to culture, because you may not be able to compete on Seattle wages or, whatever, but you can compete on lifestyle and other things like that. And then what's the company culture like? Like, what do they do? And so it's interesting because you're dealing with obviously a different generation, right? If you're in like my particular role, being like Gen X, right? So Gen X just now is starting to get into these kind of roles. They can be elsewhere, but a lot of boomers and stuff are starting to change. So you just got to look at that and listen to that group. It doesn't mean you do everything, but you got to think about it.
Right.
Like you got to care about it. Like it can't be just you put a mantra up and says we care about culture.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't work like that. So and I think it's what you do. It's part of why we like Fuel, because we're a startup. We don't have tons of money to spend on rent and things like that. The way you guys are doing it allows our team to get together. We've had multiple like other companies meet us here at the same time, and it's just kind of cool. You guys doing the pizza stuff. Goes back to what I was talking to you about. Sam and I going to Tomato Street for happy hour. Yeah. Like, I mean, it just kind of fits, right? Like you gotta like that stuff. Yeah. And you attract those type. The ones that are going to want to just, there's a corporate route for other people. Mm-hmm. Startups are just not for everybody.
Yeah. Like, no, for sure.
You gotta have a real hunger and drive for these things.
Definitely. Yeah. You gotta be a little crazy.
Yeah, a little bit. World. Yeah. Gotta be a little touched.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. One thing that I forgot, where did the name Omniscia AI come from?
So that came from, Fred, and so Fred's founder, right? And it originally was Omniscia Health. Okay. And so Fred is deeply passionate about helping people and helping technology enabling helping people, right? So he was really focused on the health side of it. And it's not that we're going to be doing stuff in healthcare and we're going to be doing those things. It's just more of we went to Omniscia AI because we started to see pull in all these other verticals. Yeah. And healthcare verticals and markets in general are slow on the uptake. Yeah. Right. It's not like fintech isn't. We just happen to have a partner that's got hundreds of customers already. Mm-hmm. And then in healthcare, we're courting a partner that's got probably thousands of customers that in healthcare. So Omniscia AI was, that was originally Omniscia Health. And then when I came on board, we tweaked it and launched Omniscia AI. And that was that release in January when it was kind of like, hey, we're going to go broader. So Fred had been talking to me for a while, and basically, said, hey, I want to bring you on board. And one of the things is I said, well, I think we need to be broader than just this because it could take a long time. Mm-hmm. And you're beholden to a vertical where you could have one change at the top, right, and your whole thing's blown up. Yeah. And so, I know I go back and forth with investors on this stuff because they want you to be singularly focused either on a vertical or a thing, and I've seen that be the death knell of a lot of startups. Yeah. And so you don't know which one's going to go. Yeah. It could be the sports and entertainment thing that just goes bonkers. Yeah. It could be the fintech thing. Right. Probably going to be the healthcare. Go figure. Yeah. Like if I had a crystal ball, it'd be easy.
Exactly. Yeah. That makes sense. All right. Well, anything else you want to add? I mean, where can people reach out to you, connect with you, if they want to learn more about Omniscia?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is probably, if you want to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, just look me up there, and I accept pretty much anybody. Just let me know that it's, that you saw this or something like that, so I know, because I get, we all do. We get spammed like crazy on it. But yeah, reach out to me there. And I've been putting a lot of energy into LinkedIn posts that are both informative, from my perspective, and educational on what's actually going on with AI. There's a lot of secrets, a lot of stuff going on that people just are not aware of. So we're trying to highlight that. And then you're going to see, as I mentioned, fairly soon, you'll see a pretty big splash with a famous person, which is super cool for, a company in Spokane, Washington, right? Like that's neat.
That's awesome. Well, we'll be on the lookout for it. Well, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, and really appreciate it. Have a good time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, bud.